We've always believed the reefing hobby is built on more than just products. It's built on people, on knowledge, on passion, and on the communities that keep this hobby moving forward. That's why we're proud to announce that Exodus is officially sponsoring the Reefers Network, a community created for reef keepers by reef keepers, bringing hobbyists together, sharing experiences, supporting stores, celebrating the industry, and helping more people succeed in the reef aquarium hobby. We're proud to support the Reefers Network, and we're so excited for what's coming next.
Banging tune. Happy Friday, everyone. How are we? Welcome, one and all. We are here tonight to bring positive vibes and talk about everything good about the reefing hobby. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. I'm only messing. Yeah, we're gonna go around tonight, and we thought last week we did a lot of the bad, right? And we all had these ideas of what irks us, what stresses us, and whatnot else. And we thought, let's flip it this week. Let's bring the vibe up. Let's get everyone involved. All the good stuff. You know, does it stress you out? De-stress you? Let's talk about the positive stuff. We're going to go around the room. We've got some ideas, but we need comments and suggestions from the audience, because the four of us, three of us and himself, we thought of a few, and there's loads going to come out, isn't it? But we want to hear from you guys what you like about this hobby. But yeah, put it to us. We're going to go firstly into the comments and say hello to everyone. But before we do that, welcome to my panel guests. Hello, Dong. How have you been, my friend?
Hello. Very nice.
Dong's got it out again. Terrell, mate, how you doing? You all right?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Been working hard. I'm exhausted, but I'm happy to be here. It's I always laugh. I'm always like right before the live, I'm like dead tired. I'm ready to fall asleep, and then when I get on here, it's like get that burst of energy. I'm like, I'm ready to go. So we're here.
I don't know who's the worst in you and Jamie, though, Terrell, in responding to text messages and WhatsApp messages, because you're both pretty much up there in terms of shite.
Busy people. Well, look, Tom can get us off underway with what's good about the hobby, because Tom has been stroking something and making it bigger this week. Ooh. Do you want to show everyone, Tom?
Wow.
Oh, the owl. Well, to be fair, I took some corals out of the garage that, and I just thought I'd put a little bit of movement in the tank for a change. Oh, excuse my hairy arm. So yeah, we've got a few torches out the garage, Gonny and Alveopora, and it's just filling out quite nice in there. I know you see it on the background every Friday when we do the show. But
move it right a little bit. Move it right and let it focus on the tank. There we go. There we go. It's focusing on your beautiful shoulder.
There you go. You love my shoulder, really. There you go. Yeah, but yeah, it's all right. Yeah,
it's lovely.
Really nice. A few torches about today, but yeah, we get in there. It's getting there. It's getting there. To be fair, it is.
Very nice.
Cool. Right, that sets us off nicely. First, let's see who's joining us. We've got 40 odd of us in the room at the minute. we'll go through. Techers is bragging because he's beat John. That seems to be the goal these days. Of course, John's shortly behind him. Good evening, John. How you doing, mate? We got Ron with us as well. Hi, Ron. I'm sure Ron can bring some positivity. He's always quite an upbeat guy, so chuck a few in there, Ron, please. People talking amongst themselves. Nad's Glass. Hi, mate. I checked out Nad's Instagram. Go and check out Nad's Glass Instagram. He makes some very interesting products. They look really, really cool. That's all I'll say for now. Good evening, Rama. How we doing, mate? Hope you're all right. Terry. Hi, Terry, mate. Good to see you with us. Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Keep going. Ocean Genetics. Hi. Excited to be back.
Oh, wow.
Good to have you back, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us.
Nad's Glass. Nice.
I thought that'd be up your street, Terrell.
You know, the funniest thing is, though, is if he changed the two words the other way around, it'd be even more entertaining.
Nad's ass.
No, if he had glass nads.
Oh, yeah. That works
Anyway,
as well.
moving on.
Good evening, Brian Corals. Sorry to ruin that one there. We have... Oh, that's a new one for me. Fidocio.
Nice.
Have I said that right? Hello, mate.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Good to have you with us. El Zippy. Hi, El Zippy. Ollie's Tank. Good evening, Ollie. Keep going. Tony Close. Hi, Tony. Treetop's back with us. Good evening. Baby Dave. Hi, Baby Dave. Might be seeing you on Sunday, sir, if you were coming to a little reef meet that's going on. Hey, Sharon and Tommy. Got the whiskey out. There's never in doubt, is it? Never in doubt. Speaking of the whiskey show, we've got Gaza with us as well. Hey, Gaz. Roland as well. Hi, Roland. Stephen Owen. Hi, Steve. Hope you're well, buddy. Terror Reef. Hi, Terror Reef.
New one. Welcome.
Yeah, good to have these people with us. Mickey Boy Mick, MBM. Hi, Mick. Hope I've heard things about your what were they, Tom? Go on, were they frag tank or concept tank?
He's working on a frag tank concept tank, which we will talk more about in the upcoming weeks for sure. Going to give you some support, definitely.
Very interesting. Got Lindsay with us. Hi, Lindsay. Hope you're all right.
Don't recognise the name at all.
What's that?
when you walk behind Terrell later on, just give us a wave, okay? You're involved.
That's it. The brains.
She's hiding over there.
Mr. Rickson, hello, Reese. I wonder what he's been playing with this week. Probably something techie. Here we go. Jeffro. Hi, Jeffro. And coming to the end, I think people are talking. I hope I haven't missed anyone. How could I miss the Peter Parry?
Oh, the one and only. Mr. Peter Parry!
That's the
good.
one. Hi, Peter.
Well.
Elisa as well. Good afternoon, Elisa.
Happy day.
Lisa,
That's the one. Ricardo. Hey, Ricardo.
hello.
Daniel Heiser. I hope I've said that right again. I apologise. Hi, Daniel. Good to see you. And we're down the bottom, and we're all there. I think that's brilliant. Okay. Where do we start then, gents? Where do we start with good stuff? Anyone want to kick us off, or do we just throw a random?
To be fair, I'll start by saying, to be fair to AI, when I did the thumbnail the other day with the good reef hunting, it came up with that term itself, that slogan of it's a therapy. So I would probably literally start with: do you feel you might question this quite often during the hobby as to why you're doing it, and test your sanity and your wallet and everything else, your relationships, however far you want to really spread it. But do you think it's a good thing? Positive vibes?
Depends what day you ask on, doesn't it? It is that yin and yang, isn't it? You've got stress, less stress, more stress, and it can go either way. When you get home from work and you crack open a beer and you sit and watch the fish, you think this is worth every penny. But when you're up at 6:30 a.m. on a Monday morning and you get into your car, you check your phone and all your alarms are going off. That's not good.
I think for me over the last sort of 18 months, with me pushing to try and grow, get the business off the ground, do it on a bigger scale, I've spoke to Dong and Terrell about this loads of times. You start to, Dong you said to me months ago, it's not easy, and I'm doing it nowhere near on the same scale as you. And I said this last week, I think a little bit. you look at a tank and all you think about is the nice bits. You think about, you know, feeding the fish, growing the corals, maybe fragging, maybe the odd water change. But when you multiply that by such a large volume of water and so many corals and frags, when it comes to things that I was moaning about last week when we were doing the reefing bad, like the algae and stuff like that on frag plugs, you just don't realize how time consuming it is. So I think sometimes you can literally bite off more than you can chew, and it becomes a pain in the ass rather than a pleasure. And I think for me, you've got to remind yourself that you're meant to be doing it, you know, you should be a positive experience. And if you're not making money out of it and you're not having fun out of it, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. I'll speak on the therapy, which has been kind of interesting up my alley. So like I'm a veteran. I did 5 years in the Marine Corps. So, you know, getting out of it, you know, going from the field, I was working on avionics on F-18s before. And then I got out and then I was doing office work, which I absolutely freaking hated. And I had an issue, you know, kind of integrating back into that civilian life, finding purpose in what I was doing, and sitting in an office, you know, for somebody else, you know, how many hours of the day was very difficult. So, you know, working for myself was one thing. I had a laser engraving business. I was doing that, but I was reefing on the side. And so reefing has always been a therapy for me because it started off as something that I was applying myself to. And it was something that gave me a purpose every day to sit down and put my knowledge to. Like I wanted to learn something. I wanted to find more out about it. And it really did. It kind of made my life, it structured my life in a certain way to focus on this one thing and to, you know, make something good out of it. And like you said, there's always going to be those hard times, those bad times, but like that is life. And I think that's where, you know, in that therapy, you know, reefing becomes sort of like a way of life because, you know, coral, it teaches you to love and lose and be, you know, you have to be okay with losing because nothing's ever going to get that back, but you have to learn if you want to keep going with it. So there's a lot of life lessons that you pull from reefing as well. And like I said, I think it does feed back into, you know, being therapy in my own life, you know, being something to put my love and my passion to, where I have purpose in my life. And I've even had like other veterans that I know that are good friends of mine that approach me, and they speak on it the same way. And they're like, you know, this is their therapy to lock into something instead of being in their brain, and be able to put, you know, touch it, you know, physically alter it, you know, physically work on it, think about it all the time. And it really does take you out of that headspace you get caught in sometimes, and it forces you to care about something else other than this going on all the time.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. I think there's a lot. Obviously, I'm not a veteran. I can't relate to the stuff you've seen and done and been exposed to. But even in like the stresses of a boring job, like 95% of us have, it's just that escape, isn't it? And coming back to it and just completely switching off from the phone calls and the email traffic, whatever it may be. And yeah, looking back and thinking, yeah, I did that. That relies on me. I created something here, and you know, look at it. And it just focuses the mind as well. Like boring things, changing your filter roller, cleaning your skimmer out. You know, it passes an hour of your time at night where you're not thinking about something that stresses you. It's just what are you doing?
Yeah. You ever been like pissed or you're overwhelmed with something and you're like,
I've been pissed several times, Terrell, just in case you didn't know.
But I know you have. But it's like, you know, either, you know, sometimes that's where it's like it's a double-edged sword. Is you can be pissed and come home and then you got to work on your tank and it's freaking miserable. Or, you know, sometimes it's nice, you know, where it's, you know, let me get away for a little while. Let me just like I gotta do something that my brain's not thinking about, something where I can just monotonously clean the skimmer head. Yeah, it's just easy work, but it takes you out of that. Again, it takes you out of that you know, whatever space that you're in at that moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There was a study done on
why does this
psychology.
Not surprise me? Why does this not surprise me? Here we go.
Yeah, that's actually I think the study was published in some very respectful medical journal. So saltwater fish tank is similar to Prozac in terms of human psychology.
Really?
Okay.
Similar to Prozac. So there may be some subconscious connection of human being to the ocean.
Sorry to put in, Dong. So if somebody is being told by a doctor that they may need to be subscribed Prozac. Does this mean they can take the wife to the doctors the next time round and then have a conversation about getting a reef aquarium instead of taking the medication? Just asking for
absolutely, yeah. Why not? So also there's another thing. Think about the movie Finding Nemo. It's happened in a dentist office, and there's many dentists, at least around here, have saltwater fish tank and coral tank in their office. It calms people down. And there's another phenomena is that you can see people get out of the hobby due to their moving. Something happened to their life, then they come back and get out and come back. It's like an addiction instead of a hobby. Just like people addicted to Prozac.
I've always wondered, I always think about how like your brain is when you're a kid and you're seeing like neon for the first time, or you're seeing like a kaleidoscope as a kid and all like the pretty colors, and it's just your brain is just taking that all in. And I've always laughed in my head, and I think coral hits that spot in my brain where I think of like when I was a kid looking at a kaleidoscope. It's just all the rainbow colors and the movement and everything, and it's just something that it connects me to like something very basic as a human.
And also there very interesting thing that I also saw another paper even more direct. So the paper said that when our reefer put our hand in the water, some sort of chemical actually enters through the skin. It stimulates our brain. So that actually is a chemically make us happy. So that could be a potential another thing. For example, like cats. Oh my gosh, so many kitty cats. So the cat actually has this parasite to infect human. So to make human like cats. That's why you see so many cats on YouTube.
Okay. Fair enough.
There's definitely something in that deep rooted in our psyche, because humans naturally are drawn to water, right? You go on holiday, to the beach, or you sit by a pool, or you go fishing and sit by a lake, and water is just, people are drawn to it from an evolutionary standpoint. So having it in your living room or wherever it may be, probably something in that, like deep in the back of our head somewhere in our caveman bit.
Good evening, Mrs. Amanda Mackley. Hope you and the kids as well. Chris is good. My psychologist recommended.
I think Amanda, you probably have more than a reef tank.
Wow, that's awesome though.
Wow, so your doctor prescribed you Chris Meckley. That's interesting. I love that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I think a lot of people will agree that the whole link with therapy and like this being therapy and mental health and positive benefits a tank can bring. I think you don't even need a scientific study for that one. I think a lot of people are fall into that one naturally, right? And
I think that's where you've got to remind yourself, as I said earlier, about that balance, because I don't know how you guys feel or people watching at home in the comments, but I think sometimes you're so sort of blinkered, the tunnel vision in terms of perfection, again through outside influences, social media or whatever else. You're striving for that perfection, and you sometimes forget just to enjoy it. And it's you tend to stress about everything else that's negative, and very rarely will you actually go, do you know what? It actually looks good, or that coral's doing well. And sometimes it isn't until people outside, where you live, maybe your social circle, will come and go, oh my God, your tank's looks so good, it's grown out. And you're like, really? And they're like, yeah, it looks great. And I'm like, you need to come here more often.
But you know what, Tom? You know what? That right there, and that comes with you identify it, you're self-aware of it, and then now you can improve it.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it and say, you know what? Nah, I can't let myself be stressed out about this, even when it's weighing on you. And that comes with you growing as a person, growing as an individual, and being able to handle those situations in calmer ways instead of being like, again, this shit's gonna overwhelm you, especially at scale. Yeah. And that comes with you got to be the person to grow enough to be able to handle it.
Yeah,
it's life. It's life.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm sorry, Jay. That's what I'm saying. What Daniel's saying. You're just focusing on that perfection, and you just forget about enjoying it. And you're definitely right on that.
but there's perfectly imperfect. I've always thought that, man. Just there's perfection and imperfection all the time, and you got to take it for what it is. And sometimes it's just, you laugh about it. It's you walk out and everything. Oh, I'm doing so good. Everything's alive. I'm growing everything, and then just everything shits on you. And what can you do? You just got to ride with it. And you're running a little. I mean, think about it in the perspective of what are we actually really doing at the level that we're doing with. And you got to think that like we are on the cutting edge of really doing this stuff. And, we got to give ourselves a little bit of leeway on it when we screw up.
You've given me a really good segue point there, Terrell, and I'm going to take it. Thank you. So we've basically said the whole hobby in itself is good and positive. But what about we start talking about the bits of the hobby that we think are great? And so on what you've just said there, I'm going to throw up one of mine first. And what I think is so good about the reefing hobby now is we've never had it so good. So what I mean by that is I've been in the marine hobby for 20 years. When I first started keeping a reef tank, it was bloody awful. And back then, things like acropora and certain other SPS, even like types of Monty and stuff, were considered almost impossible to keep. You'd get a stick from the shop that had been imported the day before. It held colour for a week and it was white by 5 days later. It was just impossible to keep an SPS coral. Nowadays, with the advance in technology, the understanding, the quality of the products, and the understanding of the trace elements, all that sort of stuff, you can be very new in this hobby and have SPS and keep it well and grow it out. I think it's such a good place now for a newbie to come into this. And yes, there's a lot to learn, and you can get fried in the headlights of everything, but you can buy an off-the-shelf, all-in-one system and keep pretty much what you like. And I think we don't really recognise that. We all complain, and I'd complained last week about the cost of things and the gadgets for this and the gadgets for that, but step back and look at it, it's actually brilliant now. So we've never had it as good as we've got it. I just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Agreed. I agree 100%. I mean, shit, even look at like, Reef Bum. He's able to keep a tank literally out in bum middle of nowhere, and and look at how successful he is. I mean, but that just speaks to we have social media to be able to sit down and talk with each other across the world and share ideas and knowledge. We have the support system to be able to order all this shit out into the middle of nowhere and keep these tanks. And especially when you need stuff now, it's you're right. I think we've never had it so good. And I think we're since we're at that point, we only compare it to what we have, and then we get spoiled and kind of bitch and complain about what we have.
I am gonna bitch and complain though, and say I miss a lot of the OG corals that we don't get anymore.
Yep.
But,
okay.
If it's one of those, if you knew then what you know now, you'd have bought different corals, possibly.
Yeah.
But and live rock, I've said live rock. It's not really the same as it used to be back then. But
well, actually, there's many OG corals still exist, but they look different.
Okay. Yeah.
For example, like the OIA Red Planet was so popular, but these days you don't see them. You don't see people selling Red Planet anymore. Of course, I do. I still have some because they got renamed. Because under LED light, they looks different, and under different LED light, they looks different. So when you use a different device to take the photo, they looks different. Then they got so many different names. So last time I checked, there's only about 20 species of acropora in this hobby that being traded. So that means that all the old school coral we still have, but they just look different. If you hang up on your metal halide, maybe you can. Red Planet come back.
But it's obviously the coral trends come and go. So hindsight's always great. Oh, I should have hung on to that piece, and I should have fragged that. And you'll never get that right. That's the same as gardening, and different varieties of tulips come out every year, and you can't get the one you had last year, and all that sort of stuff. But it's always going to be the way. But in terms of sheer entry to what is a very technical and very difficult hobby, you haven't got to start now with a goldfish. You can come in and buy a what's it called, a Hello Reef or a Red Sea Nano, and just go, go. And then also the other side of it, you can go away. You can go away on holiday now. Do you remember back in the day, you'd go on a holiday and every day you'd be cacking your pants like, can my neighbours go in and check it, and you're dreading a phone call. Whereas now I could be at work on the roof of a skyscraper in London, and my wife will text me saying there's a gurgling sound coming from your tank. I can just open my phone on CCTV and turn the skimmer off from the top of a building in London and not worry about it until I get home. It's like,
Right.
and then backup power supplies like that. There's so much that it's easy now. Other side of the coin, there's an expense, granted, but you know, if you want to play golf to the top level, you're spending fortunes on your equipment for that. So, that's it. I think we never had it so good. And I was coming from an equipment angle, not necessarily a livestock angle, but even livestock. Like when I first started keeping tanks, there was maybe 1 or 2 varieties of acro that were just coming in. Probably never saw a clam, very rarely. And now look at this. We've got, I couldn't even name the numbers of acros that are available. Couldn't even name the numbers of softies and mushrooms and varieties and stuff. It's mental.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Tom.
All innocent here, son. All innocent here. I think you're right, but I also think sometimes less is more a little bit. I think there is sometimes for a newbie coming in, we've said this time and time again, there is probably a little bit too much out there. But in all fairness, to get certain products like you've just mentioned, get Hello Reef or an all-in-one, you don't need to deviate because it's all there for you, isn't it? It's all set there. It's all sort of this is what you need. Plug and play is what I'm trying to say. Plug and play.
But you're right. We've at this point in our society and this point in life, we have more than anybody else has ever had come before us. Like we have more access. We have more ability for, to find the knowledge, to communicate with each other, to get this stuff, and again, you can have the conversation of, where is it too much sometimes, but we're spoiled. We're very spoiled.
Yeah, but we said this last week, didn't we, about reefing being a fashion, didn't we? If you remember rightly, if I remember rightly, last week. I've slept since then, but it's a cycle. So what isn't trendy or isn't everybody's cup of tea today, next month, thanks to Instagram and some orange filters and somebody's saturated camera, everybody wants a piece, Terrell, or whatever. Just
I don't do that.
Well, one thing that actually has been improved over the years versus 20 years ago is the salt.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I look back in about a data sheet that Instant Ocean published about 20 something years ago. They have 5 trace elements in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these days, if you look into the salt, many have them 30 something up to 70. Like tropic marine has 70 different trace elements. So there are a lot more understanding about how to formulate a salt that to support more dedicated reef life. That's a huge improvement. I still remember that maybe like 10 years ago, there's one salt brand have the big logo on the bucket say no bromide. Apparently that doesn't work. So bromide is an essential element. So we can see that the progress of the salt alone is so much different. That make all the plug and play tank feasible.
Yeah. Dog, I'm going to put yours on the board now as well. Your suggestion was chemicals that actually work. So that's what you just said there, right?
Yes.
The understanding has brought with it research and product development for things we never even could have dreamt of.
Yes.
Back in the day.
And thanks for the environmental protection movements that put a lot of research money into coral reef and coral biology. Before that, let's say like 20, 30 years ago, nobody cared about the coral. Since nobody cared about the coral, there's no research money from the government or not enough research money from the government to put on the basic research on coral. Why do you want to study potassium for coral? It doesn't grow corn. It doesn't produce gasoline. So, but that's why we see that there's so many publications in the past 10 years, so much research coming out that actually help this hobby dramatically.
So
They're really not, well, sometimes the
people have
social
an
media
bad.
some opinions saying that the scientific community is so disconnected from the hobby. I don't think so. It's just people haven't looked into it to see how much data actually being generated.
Right.
For example, just like the salt, and also that is a potassium iodide. And now we actually understand how the iodine and iodide dosing, how it works from publication.
We've also been very lucky in that a lot of, because it's quite a techno hobby, if you like. A lot of academics are in the hobby.
Yes,
and they'll take the hobby with them and then want to research it, and it's grown from that. It's not people that have come in from a completely unrelated background that are studying this stuff. It's hobbyists that are academics that and even like some of the products, like look at Corey from NIOS, who's developed stuff. Hobbyist first, and look what's come after. And a lot of the tech has come from that route, and fantastic.
So there, I remember there's a common saying, even just last year, saying, okay, the scientists cannot keep coral alive, but that's not true at all. For example, if you look at the laboratory in University of Florida, and those laboratory, or in the Stanford University, all this kind of thing, there's no problem keeping coral alive, just like our hobbyists. So because that the knowledge has been really, the scientific knowledge is driving this hobby, as well as more scientific research. For example, that in the old days, like 20 years ago, and if a scientist want to study a coral behavior, they start with all this wild-caught coral with a lousy synthetic sea salt. And actually, many coral doesn't survive because of the poor synthetic sea salt. But these days, people can do scientific research on wild-caught coral. Perfectly fine.
Spawning, farming.
Spawning, farming. For matter of fact, a lot of spawning are done on wild coral. They're not done on, a lot of them. For example, like
jumping through my banners here.
Oh, good.
What I will say, to go backwards on the chemical though, I don't know how you feel about this, is that it does take you back to school a little bit, because I don't know whether most people engaged much at school with things like chemistry and the biology side of it, or whether they were too busy, you Americans like your red cups and you're dancing to Blink 182 or whatever it was back then. But what I'm trying to say is that most people, when you're at high school or college, you straight over your head.
Well, it's not applied. Nothing's applied.
Exactly. It's not really that sort of important.
How do you
everyday life, is it?
Yep. How do you? And that's my issue, is I have such a hard time sitting in a class, reading it, and then trying to comprehend it in theory. But it's easier for me to look at it in here, and then as I'm working on it, I can physically, you can physically see something. So it's applied theory. I think is the best. I've always learned the best from that.
But it makes sense, because you're doing it, aren't you? While you're doing it, it's all sort of making sense. And when you can see, I think the other thing for me is when you can actually see, added benefits to certain things that you've changed or done of the chemistry, then that again gives you that added confidence that you're going in the right direction.
Oh, it's critical thinking too, man. You can go through your thought process and say, hey, this is my problem. Here's my hypotheses for it. Here's how I want to go about doing this. I can change my spectrum. It can do this, that, the third, observation, and then now you can come to a conclusion of it. I mean, it's all the basics that we learned in school, just how to think, and then you're just applying it right here.
One thing I will ask you. Go on. Sorry, one thing I will ask you before we do coral captive spawning. ICPs then, they weren't something that was around 20 years ago. Do we think they're a good thing or a bad thing for the hobby?
Yeah, they weren't to a hobbyist, but now it's another depth of knowledge, isn't it? Do you need to do it with your all-in-one tank and your softies? Probably not. But
But do you think they're a good thing or a bad thing though? Because could you say that a lot of people get hooked up on them and chase the numbers too much? Maybe they should just do a water change and sit back a little bit, maybe, or.
But that's like anybody.
It depends. Depends the size of your tank. And also your schedule, your style.
Yep.
So because after all, this is a hobby. instead of something that you rely on to make money to support a family.
Yeah.
But to most, it's also an investment because it's not a cheap hobby. It's kind of where I'm going as well.
That's true.
Actually, I do have problem with the mindset of investment because that is a living thing. The risk is too high as an investment. You can invest in bond; those are pretty safe, right? They don't die. And you can invest in a vintage watch, like the Omega, whatever. You can even invest in some kind of Louis Vuitton. No, absolutely not. So, but
have you got many Louis Vuitton handbags out of interest, Don? Have you got many handbags, Louis Vuitton handbags?
No, I don't. Am I look like somebody can have many handbags? No, I have none.
But can't you invest in, the quality of health for your animals?
The variable is too high because that I still remember one guy that he invested many coral and he's saying that his retirement plan just is nothing to do with the reefing skill, whatever.
Okay.
One power outage every single time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that this should be a hobby to enjoy instead of an investment. When you turn off the investment,
you want to be a hobbyist, then you don't want to look at it as an investment as a hobbyist, because I feel like that you're talking about like money investment, like I'm buying this coral.
There is that definitely. There will be that mindset for some people. I'm going to spend $1,000 or whatever much on this, acro because I'm going to grow it out, frag it out, get my money back, and 10 times whatever. I'm saying more with the investment psyche of people sort of wanting to keep on top of the tanks in terms of like technology, to keep sure, make sure. Like Jamie was saying about going on holiday and monitoring it, is because you've invested a lot of money, but also a lot of time. So you want to keep on top of it. Is kind of the route I was making with investment. You've invested a lot of money and time in it, so therefore, you're all in. Your balls deep. You're in it. You're in it for the long haul. Yeah. So whatever your tank needs. If it means you don't feed the kids, the reef tank wins.
Well, for a matter of fact, there are cases that people are not feeding their kids. So a friend of mine who is a social worker, he told me that it kills him when he walked into a welfare family. They have a reef tank, and they have all this fancy equipment on it. They have this high-end coral in it, but they're on welfare. So the thing is that feed your kid first.
Oh yeah.
So
on that saying about investing in our stuff. Well, going back a little bit, when I said we never had it so good, it also goes for the livestock. Diet and stuff these fish get now is top notch. We know exactly what their requirements are. We know what all the specialized feeders need. There's foods with sponge and stuff included for the angelfish and things like that. Again, 20 years ago, people were feeding them lettuce leaves and cheap powdered foods that were like made of cornstarch and stuff. So
and banana.
All that sort of.
Seriously.
So everyone's winning at the minute. Medications as well. We've got so much more disease understanding. So I'm going back over old ground here, but on the investment side of it, you're right. I've never bought a coral or a fish thinking I'm going to flip that and make loads of money.
Yeah.
But I've invested a shit ton of my money and funds and energy and time and brain power.
That's more what I'm getting at. That's more what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And everything in this room.
Like having a dog or a cat,
Yeah. And that's how I justify my spend though. Like when I was buying a skimmer, for example, I could have bought the cheapest skimmer out there, but I'm thinking, well, my coral value warrants spending on something that bit more reliable and that bit more robust. So you don't mind weighing it up and putting the extra money onto it. And then if I frag a couple of corals and swap them with people, I'm winning as well. I'm not in it for the. If you're in this hobby to make money, you're in the wrong hobby, unless you're properly farming and culturing stuff. But as a hobbyist with a tank in the garage, you're never going to make money. It costs me too much money. Right? But look, it's good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. And I've always looked at it as like, whether it's, your reef tank is like your cat or your dog, it's an exotic animal. And just because it's a glass box, but it's all the stuff that you put into it. So it's like, are you going to feed your dog, and cat good food, or are you going to feed them slop? You know, that they're still going to live, but how's the health going to be? How long are they going to live? You know, so and you know that's where my mind goes to when I hear like investing is, you know, putting the time and the money and the effort and, you know, to keep your animals that you love. And even though you're only renting time with them, realistically, you know, how long can you rent that time with them and enjoy them?
That's a nice way of putting it, Tom.
Yep.
It's
absolutely.
I like this comment from Terra Reef. You can make a small fortune if you start with a large fortune. That's so right.
Do you remember Donald Trump gave a really good interview years and years ago, and he was being questioned. I can't remember, one of these quiz shows about panel shows about how he made his wealth, and he was like, "It's easy. I started out with just $1 million." I was like, "Oh,
yeah, just $1 million.
Yeah, just $1 million, not much, a tiny bit."
Yeah.
really easy, really easy.
It's that weird
it's
paradox.
kind of interesting that 20-something years ago, when I got into the hobby, and I read an article online at the time written by, I think it's Anthony Calvo, and who is one of the pioneer about the aquaculture in coral. Right. I have his book as well. One thing that I still remember is that one statement is that if you want to get sufficient amount of income to supplement your hobby, that's not exact word, but that's what it means. So your reef tank need to be the size of a Honda Civic. Yeah. That's the size you shoot for by cutting coral to supplement it.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah.
Well, look, so we've talked about all the good kit and equipment, all the good dietary stuff, and how we've improved all that. What happens when you get all that right? The next best thing our hobby has done is artificial spawning of animals that were once impossible. And I'm including fish into that as well. You know, things that like the biotas of this world and the Yong are doing with fish is incredible. Never would have thought of it all those years ago. And it's yes, there's some of the endangered and critical and vulnerable species, but some of the easier stuff, like, you know, I don't know, all your clownfish and all your little nano gobies and stuff that are quite easy to spawn, but because there's quite a high demand, it takes that demand off wild collection. So there's so much good stuff that has come from just keeping these animals and the hobby itself, and a lot of it as well, citizen science. Guys like you and me that have done it in your tank and just learnt the process. I think the coral spawning thing, like our national treasure Jamie Craggs has done, and the guys over at Reef in Germany that are now doing. Yeah. They're not only spawning corals, they're not only basing corals out, they've actually learned and worked out how to get higher success rates, higher yields, what makes a higher settling rate, and then they're getting to the point of putting stuff back in the sea. And it's like, and not only just putting stuff back in the sea that's easy to spawn, they're actually making super resilient versions of those wild corals and you know, heat stress versions that can tolerate and putting them back. So our little humble hobby that has grown and grown to what it is now is the sort of the catalyst of putting stuff back in the sea. So I think that's pucker. really good.
I love it, man, and I think that kind of stuff only brings more awareness to the hobby. You know, it's when you're making no progress, nobody wants to look, and then all of a sudden when you make those little bits of progress, it like captive spawning, you know, breeding stuff in captivity, things of that nature. It makes it more palatable to the people that maybe don't like what we're doing, or maybe kind of like, you know, now you're presenting it to them like you said, you're taking less, you know, wild collection, and you're sustaining our reefs. And not only that, now you can feed it back, and now it feeds itself. So like I know I've seen, like, you know, more videos come out on, you know, YouTube over the last, you know, X number of years, and it's just, you know, coral spawning, reefs, you know, it just brings awareness to this hobby more and more.
Do you think there's an argument to say that if there was, and I'm not suggesting that everybody gets a white rhinoceros and puts it in a cage and observes it, but if other species or other creatures around the world were observed in closer, proximity in a living room, do you think we'd be having to be a different sort of state of affairs when it comes to the ecosystem? Do you think? Maybe? Do you think?
Depends which animal.
If that white tiger, sorry. This is a good topic because that, for example, if you have a white tiger, and if you keep the white tiger in your backyard in a cage, provided that tiger is captive bred, there's no problem with that. But if you capture a white tiger from the wild, 1 in a million, kept in your backyard, that is not acceptable.
Yeah, you
So,
removed it from the people.
I heard that in one of the local Reef Cup meeting, like many years ago, some guy said, I have a dream. The dream is that all in the reef tank, everything is captive bred, aquaculture, including fish and coral. And we are taking none from the ocean. That was a dream 20 years ago for many people. And that probably is the direction we are going toward for this hobby. Eventually, this hobby will self-sustain from aquaculture, from spawning, from fish to coral.
Yeah, you could
Then
do that
they'll
now.
be entirely.
You could have a tank full of red bubble tip nems and clownfish that's completely captive.
Oh, yeah.
You could do that now. Have a nice looking display, you know.
For matter of fact, that there's one example about a hobbyist saved this hobby is clownfish, because that clownfish actually was proposed as a ban list, as an endangered species list. So, but of course, the environmental group, is trying to use this as a stepping stone and eventually ban the whole hobby. They start with clownfish first. But then in the court, they were presented evidence that there's zero clownfish for this hobby taken from the reef, because that the captive bred is more than sufficient to supply all the clownfish need for this hobby, and with extra. We don't know what to do with all this Nemo that nobody wants. So that is how this argument and this petition gets shut down. So clownfish, they start out with clownfish. Of course, they should do the homework. They didn't. They say, oh, let's start with clownfish, with ban clownfish, because their excuse is that by taking wild clownfish from the reef, it actually disrupts the ecosystem. That's true. Because that way you take the clownfish out of the anemone will get eaten by our fish. The clownfish actually protecting the anemone. But the truth is that due to the progress of this hobby, people no longer import clownfish from the wild.
Yeah, and the good thing is the difference between our captive bred clowns and say in the freshwater hobby, you've got fish in the freshwater hobby like guppies and live bearers and stuff that you just put them in your tank, add water, and you end up with hundreds of them. They breed and they survive, and you get loads of them. No marine fish does that. So we're never going to be overrun to the point of the unethical breeding comes into it, because even to breed clownfish, yes, everyone can get them to spawn in their tank, but to rear them is considerable effort. You know, you've got to have separate tanks,
yes,
specialized foods, the whole lot. So we're not going to be, unless you're not going to breed marine fish, unless you really, really want to. You might get the odd Bangai cardinal larvae survive, but realistically, you're not going to breed any marine fish unless you really, really bloody try to do it. But it can be done. And even going back onto the coral side of things, most of us as hobbyists, well, all of us as hobbyists, we're never going to be able to put our own corals back into the sea. It's never going to happen. You never get permits for that. They can't guarantee the progeny, the disease, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it can only come from a proper facility. However, all of us doing it can create our own things. I know people in my local sort of circles that are trying to do things like splicing corals and putting two corals on the same frag plug and seeing they grow. All these weird kooky experiments that people are doing now can be done, and it's not harming anything in the wild. It's I just think it's amazing. I think it's the next part of our hobby. People like us that have kept a reef tank even for a couple of years are attempting bloody spawning corals now. That is how far this has come. You know, and the last thing I'll say on that is you haven't got to work it out for yourself. The people that have done it in our hobby is so open and collaborative. You can download people's manuals off websites to tell you exactly how to do it, what your light settings are, what your hourly cycles are and stuff. People share this information for the greater good. It's brilliant.
Dan, with a couple of questions in the comments for you tonight. Sorry, guys, we're not going to ignore you. Slight off topic. Wilmar's asking, what do you think of changing salt mixers and the dangers of doing it too quickly, including the rest of you guys?
I don't think there's any dangers to change salt mix, because that the 99% of the salt, even they're from different brand, are identical. The difference, basically, some has a little bit more calcium, a little bit more carbonate, bicarbonate, the alkalinity part, but that doesn't change the basic chemistry of the salt mix. People do that all the time by changing different brand or whatever brands on sale.
Yeah, you're going to say it's normally fine, actually. Yeah, depending.
Yeah,
Okay.
and some store deliberately by changing their salt, because they think that that will complement different salt brand, their different recipe. So basically, there is really no danger to switch salt unless the salt is poorly made. That's a different story. For example, if you mix one day you use Nile salt, the next day you use tropic marin, I don't think there's any problem, and people do that. But the thing is that some brand we shall not name in US is really badly made. For example, the alkalinity at the top of the bucket versus the bottom of the bucket are different. So in that case, if you choose a bad salt, that's where people seeing the negative impact. But for all the good salt, that high quality salt, no difference at all.
Yeah.
There's
Also,
there's no chemistry change there.
If you're only doing water changes of 10%, 20%, it's not gonna. The dilution factor is gonna take care of that anyway. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So off subject,
Because
what would be
there's
the
no
reason-
harmful reaction going to happen. There's none.
What would be the reason for a salt, a mixture to be a different alkalinity at top versus the bottom of the bucket?
Poorly mixed
Definitely.
in a drum. Yeah, poorly mixed. Yeah. And of course, that by rolling your bucket on the floor doesn't help. Because if you see how the salt factory are mixing salt, that is not like rolling your buckets down the street, try to mix it. No, it's not like that. So that's why the salt, how evenly distributed the salt is determined how the manufacture process. The manufacture process determine the quality of the salt.
Makes sense. Another one there from Robusquin. While I'm here and while I'm thinking of it, what would cause my aquarium acro-dominated bare bottom to be all milky, cloudy, right as the lights come on in the morning?
Does it clear up?
I think it's a bacterial boom or something.
But an hour earlier, the water was crystal clear, and it happens to me 2 to 3 times a week.
Could be something like your urchins having a go.
Yeah, something is spawning. Something
Yeah.
could be spawning in there.
I was thinking like snails maybe or something.
Yes, like the flower anemone, sometimes snails, urchins, even snail can give you quite a bit of cloud. Or the other thing is that your fish is looking for breakfast. Despite you have a bare bottom tank, you still have pockets of detritus accumulation.
We're
So
talking
like a
about
wrasse-
spawning here, so yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think spawning it possibly is very likely, especially if you have clams. Oh yeah, they puff up.
Funny
The
you say
smoke.
that. Funny you say that. I've been complaining over the last year or two about randomly my skimmer just going crazy and just churning out everywhere.
Yeah.
I've now tied that in. That is caused by urchins spaffing their guts up every now and then.
Yeah.
Huh.
Skimmer goes crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yes.
There's me thinking I've not done. It's lost its tuning and it's going mental. It's not. It's due to the surfactants in spunk.
Yeah, think about it. The sperm and eggs that coming out from urchin, coral, flower anemone, clams, they basically trigger the skimmer to go nuts.
I just think it's feeding the tank all the time. Go for it.
Yeah,
Food.
yeah. Basically, it's just free food.
Just,
Wow.
don't
Yeah.
just don't supplement it
Wow.
yourself.
Yep. I was watching my
Yeah.
clam the other day. It was spawning, and then all the acans start coming out and feeding
Oh.
and everything. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Got to give a big shout out to Mr. Claude from Ford and Marine himself. Good evening, good afternoon. Hope you're well.
Hi,
Mr.
Claude.
Schumacher.
Hello.
Not only the mixing, also the used materials and methods of mixing plays a role in the salt.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's why you buy a good salt.
Mhm.
That's very important.
Okay. Right. Anything in the audience that want to chuck in? Really good positive things about the hobby, the industry that you want to raise up to be discussed. We've got a few more we can go through, but it'd be nice to get some ideas chucked out there.
I'm going to say I just like growing a frag into a colony. I think that's a positive experience. You know, whether it's a torch, whether it's an LPS, whether it's an acropora. I just think that the sort of the self sort of pat on the back subconsciously that you give yourself when you see something. And I'm a big advocate of taking photos of corals.
Yeah.
So anybody says anything other than this,
That's what I was
keep it
gonna
clean. But when you take photos, you know, I said earlier about somebody coming round and, you know, but if you maybe don't have that, I don't know, social circle, or you live quite remotely, or none of your friends are really interested in what, you know, in your fish tank, it is really good to be able to flick back maybe 6 months, a year ago, or even sometimes a few months and go, you know, you can see such a difference. And I even have had this conversation with people who've had a negative issue, as in they've gone through a rough patch with the tank. You know, they've had overcome some obstacles. Maybe they've took their eye off the ball, haven't given it the time it deserves. So they've had a bit of a, you know, like I said, a bit of a rough time. It's always as important to be able to go back to your phone or your camera and your photos and go, look what I can achieve. So it's almost that boost of confidence that you can do it. So I think I'm a big advocate of taking photographs of your tank, as geeky as that sounds, or certain corals, and looking at how they've grown, or, you know, how they've developed. And I think it, again, for me mentally, it gives me that sort of reassurance that you're doing it right, which is really important.
Photography is a whole other hobby that you could tie into this, and how it's like, how deep do you want to go? You know, the photography, the videography, but being like I'm with you, Tom. I love being able to do like macro photography, just because, you know, you can really get it down in there and you can see the details that, you know, you're not going to be able to see it anywhere else.
just the words you are choosing, I can just imagine Lindsay is giggling right off right now. Lindsay is spawning in the bedroom right now. Go.
Oh my God. well, Tom, you mentioned fragging the corals, fragging the colony. Actually, that one thing I would like to share is that frag your coral when the coral looks the best.
Yeah.
Not when it's stressed. So that you end up with, you can create nice, healthy backups of your coral.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what you described there about documenting coral growth and that's I do that all the time, but that's quite a private experience and it's great. What really is good is when your friends come around your house that don't come very often and they're like, that's got massive, or look at the size of that piece over there, it looks amazing. And like, because they don't see it in sort of, you know, 3 or 4 month snapshots. Like when I come to yours, it's months and months in between. And straight away, I'm just pointing stuff out, going, "Shit, look at the size of that!" And you're like, "Really? Does it look?" You know what I mean? It's like that's when people do that to me, I get a little bit of a heart moment. Oh yeah, nice one.
One of the things for me, especially with acropora, is that when you can take a frag, like Don's saying, from a healthy coral, and you can put it in a different system. So my Gary system, obviously slightly different parameters. And maybe leave it in a few weeks, a month. Obviously, I've got the T5s in the garage, and within normally a month to 2 months, it bases out. And those parameters are slightly different to this tank, to the display tank downstairs. But I just think that for me it does a lot of things. It gives me, like I keep saying, the reassurance that I'm growing the corals. You know, they're healthy. I think they're a little bit hardier because they're used to slightly different, you know, parameters and different climates. And I think then for me to then give that coral to somebody else that's going to then put it into another environment or another habitat is going to have more, potentially, again, no guarantees, more success with it than taking it just straight out of my DT and putting it in, you know, into a different tank. I think sometimes the more different sort of stages it goes through, the more sort of hardier it can become. I've found anyway.
Oh, absolutely true. So when I tour around to look at other people's tank and get coral frags, try to get some new thing. Yeah, if I look at that tank, you keep it simple kind of tank. Doing water change, everything very simple, and then I feel more comfortable to buy coral from that reefer than from somebody has a gazillions of dosing head and is dosing amino acid 24/7. So because that, I will probably have the difficulty to reproduce that kind of environment. So the chance of the coral that being pampered to a certain stage probably have a less likelihood to survive than a coral that is hardened. Yeah, if you look at the coral farms of corals are pretty beat up and hardened. Because if you ask Chris Mackley, is Amanda still there? So I don't think that you pamper every single little coral in the farm. It's just let loose and let go, that kind of thing. And then there's a fluctuation, changes, whatever thing, the coral become more hardened.
But I think you've got to have a little bit of confidence in yourself as well. If, to be honest with you, with certain corals, and I know there's a comment there about, I've seen a comment here from Paul Ramsey. Enjoy your show. Why don't you do more show on LPS? To be fair, point taken. I am really getting on the LPS training at the minute in the garage. There are some amazing corals out there. But what I was going to say, sorry, about confidence then, is that I think sometimes that you just need to just sort of remind yourself that you can do it. It is achievable. And to take a frag and from somebody and then grow it out and take the photographs that we're talking about, or give a frag to another friend, as somebody put in there about banking it with a mate. I think it's a great part of the hobby. It really, really is. Great part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a sense of achievement. For example, one time, one of my friends haven't visited me for a long time. He walked in here, look at my tank, and said, "Wow, that fish looks really big, much bigger than last time I saw it." I said, "Oh, really?" Because I look at the fish every day. Then he said, "It looks delicious."
I'm going to give a shout out to John. So, Mr. John Wright, who's an OG, he put myself on big screen. Sorry, you might see a big picture of my head again here. So this lilac or teal green, where are we? Candy cane. Oh, wrong way. Is John Wright's. Can you see it on the end there? Let me just go. There you go. There you go, John. That's the frag that you gave me. Thank you very much. It's doing very well.
Wow. Looks big.
Yes. That's what she said. But no, thank you very much. Thanks, John. But no, it is nice to see other people have success with each other's corals, I know it doesn't always work out for whatever reason, but slightly different parameters, but it is nice to do that. And Reef's code as well.
It's the legacy thing, isn't it, as well? It's like some of the corals I've got some of the expensive name pieces, of course I have, because I'm an idiot. But also some of the corals that mean more to me are the pieces that someone's gifted to me. And it might not be, just a piece of stylo or something, but I'll remember it because that came from so-and-so. Or I've got a piece of your rainbow millie you gave me a while back. You said this is a special piece, take that because I want to know where it is. And I've got that right on display on the second rock in. It's doing really, really well. And I think that's a great piece, that frag on its own there, because that came from Tom as a gift. And it's like, that means more to me. And I like seeing them grow. And it's like, it's the whole story behind everything.
One of the things I wanted to say about confidence as well, though, is sometimes I think you can buy a coral and because of the price or because it's maybe labeled as hard, whether it's a smooth skin or some certain type of coral, not just SPS, that you sometimes question your ability, and all of a sudden the whole focus of your tank or your time goes to just that coral, keeping that coral happy, testing your water 24/7, sleeping on the couch, observing this coral like it's so important. And I think sometimes you really just got to believe in yourself. And I know that's really easy to say, and from experience, sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. But I think deep down, if everything else in your tank's doing well, just believe in yourself. It's got every chance. I sometimes think people are a bit scared of getting certain corals because I've heard that's a bit hard, and I've been told this, and I'm not saying you should go out and spend all your money on without knowing what you're buying, but I equally think that there are some corals out there that probably some people are put off by, but that shouldn't be. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. I like.
And
You go, Tom.
Go ahead.
No, you go, Don. You go.
No, sometimes
you go.
Okay. Oh yeah, you go. Well, sometimes what I find is that the people are actually so focused on a single coral, they're willing to change all the parameters, just try to gear toward that coral.
Exactly.
Yeah, but this one is not happy. Should I lower the light? Should I reduce the flow? I said no. Think about the 99 of the coral, which is very comfortable in the tank. You don't change the whole environment because of one coral.
But
you change that coral.
And exactly. And the other thing is that I don't think with the P word, the patience word, you know, that people won't give corals time to acclimatize and to settle.
Yes.
They want it to look like it did in the shop on Saturday when they bought it. They want it to
exactly.
Why is it not look like that? Why are the polyps not out? Why is it not happy?
So yeah, that is a frequently heard saying. Is that why the coral polyp is not out? Why it looks droopy? But I tell them, well, even a human doesn't have the gray day 24/7, right? Sometimes you feel tired. The coral can do the same thing. If the coral close up 1 or 2 days, just let it go. Don't get bothered about it. Corals are animal. They have downtime as well. So you don't expect them to look perfect 24/7.
Yeah. I was chatting to a friend of mine. So I randomly lost the Goniopora this week that I've had for 2.5 years in the same spot, a red Goni, beautiful Goni. Overnight, pretty much disappeared, jellified a little bit, just dissolved and disappeared. Now I've got like a white golf ball sat in the tank. And a friend of mine I was talking to was like, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, the rest of the tank's fine. I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to... Gonis, I know Gonis can... I've never lost a Goni before, unexpectedly, but I've heard enough stories to know that it can just happen. Here today, Goni tomorrow, all that sort of stuff. So
that's why it's called Goniopora. Gone.
Yeah, not going to do anything about it because everything else looks good. I think if I start tweaking stuff, I'm just going to jeopardize everything else. So,
and I think to be fair, that is a really good point, because quite often people will see a negative thing one negative thing in a tank and forget about all the other positive things that are happening. And just focus on that one negative. And then that's when you start to mess with the balance, and the seesaw effect comes into place, because you start to pour this in and take that out, and you just leave it, observe.
Leave it. Yeah.
Leave it, observe. If you're going to do anything, maybe one thing, leave it, observe what has happened since you did that one thing. Is it positive? Is it negative? Anything? And again, I've heard people say what I'm saying years ago, and I thought, what a load of crap, but it's true. It's so true. Just leave it.
There's a story actually quite interesting. So a guy told me that he coming from a mixed reef, trying to get into SPS. Then he tell me that his SPS died. Then he get another one. A week later, dead. Then he concluded, he's not going to keep SPS. There's no way he can keep SPS. I asked him, where do you put that SPS? He said, just that spot, good light, good flow. I said, why don't you look at it at night? And then set up a webcam or something like that, look at it at night. It turns out there's an anemone nearby. At nighttime, you will wandering to that spot, and daytime you're coming back to the original spot.
Wow.
And that spot is where he put his new SPS in. So literally, the anemone at night go there and kill the SPS and come back to the original spot. So sometimes that something happens is not because you're not good at doing something. It could be just happen. Something
should happen.
Unexpected happen. Yeah.
I think the other thing on that for me is, I know it's easier said than done when you've got a little bit of money or pocket money in your eyes. You see a colony in a shop for sale, and people get a tank, they want to fill it. I know not everybody probably, but most people would do. I certainly did when I had a big tank, wanted to fill it, and you subconsciously forcing nature to grow quicker because you want it to look like, this big grown out tank. And I would always say, if you can, go for the frags, get frags from, reliable sources, clean sources, other hobbyists, who've got these aquaculture frags, because it's just harder. And I just think they're a lot cheaper. You've got more chance of, you can move them around a lot easier. And I think for me, I would always suggest for somebody that wants to try different corals, maybe get a frag of something rather than just going and spending all your money on a big colony of it. Because also the other thing is to say is that frags just tend to be a lot harder, don't they? From my experience.
Plus, you're prouder to grow something like that out. Like I saw Lindsay's comment up there, and some pieces are sentimental. And I'm thinking back, and I'm like, some of the pieces that I've had since I've got in the hobby, I didn't know what it was. Like one of my favorite pieces is an Acropora suriconi. And I didn't know what it was. And I found out like they really don't get imported that much, because they're usually kind of like bland colors. But the only two that I've ever seen in the hobby, I've gotten both of them, and I love it. I think it's and I get to like trade that to other people and sell it to other people because it's so hardy, it grows so well, it's so unique. And some people are just kind of like, meh, they don't like it. It's big, it's chunky, it's slimy. But you know, it's like I've had that piece. It came from you know, hey, it is what, you know, honestly, it's like a green slimer. You know, it's real bad too. You handle it and it's just bleh. But
you need to
slimy but satisfying.
You need to see a doctor, Terrell. You need to see a doctor.
but I love having those pieces because there's a story behind it. I've grown with that piece over time, and then all of a sudden it's grown to be something I hated. I didn't like that piece. It was like ugly, and I've appreciated it over the years of what it is. And you know, or like you know, even like the pieces of sentimental. I have she's a 16 or 17-year-old lightning maroon clownfish that came from the first ever captive bred batch. So her parents were the first two that were ever captive, you know, brought into captivity. And a buddy of mine was breeding, and you know, I got hand-me down to her when he got out of the hobby. And you know, it's just, you know, things like that is, you know, it's the story behind it, and it's, you know, the value is what you make of it. It doesn't have to be.
I'm like that with the copper bands. I've got 3 copper bands in total. In my systems, and they've all come from another hobbyist. Other than Clive, which I actually got from his shop. Tell like the other 2 have come from hobbyists. So I almost feel that I don't know what it's like when you get a frag off somebody, that you almost feel a sort of sense of responsibility because it was somebody else's property, even though you may have bought it or swapped it or been given it, whatever. You almost feel like, you know, you're always going to get asked, how's my fish doing? It's like maybe a year or 2 years down the line. So I think there is a little bit of that as well. That added pressure, you know, to make sure everything's all right.
I had a guy do that to me recently. I feel so bad because he had shut his tank down a few years ago, and Did
he say how's Lindsay, my ex-wife? No.
No. It was a beautiful rainbow Welso. And I had gotten it. It had so many beautiful colors in it, and I lost it, you know, and he happened to call me up last week and, hey, I happened to see a video on so-and-so's. Did you sell that to this person? I said, no, I lost it. You can tell he was hurt by it. But I'm like, and I feel bad. I feel responsible, but it's part of it.
It is. But we asked the question for people to put comments in, and there was 5 or 6 very quickly, all around the same vibe of what they feel is good about the hobby. And I have to agree because I've put it as one of my points. Yes. Community.
Yeah.
And I'll expand on that as well. I don't just mean the groups and the meets and the WhatsApp groups and things like that. Community, I'd involve in that the suppliers, the LFSs, everyone involved. Right? It's such a collaborative hobby nowadays. Yes, there's politics between certain shops that don't like each other, but that's everywhere. But collectively, the community for me is going into the shop, speaking to the people in the shop, even have access to speak to suppliers and distributors. Like, where can you go? You wouldn't go into a car showroom and speak to the MD of BMW, would you? You don't get to do that. But in our hobby, we can speak to Steve that sponsors the channel, Exodus, who'll answer the phone to you. Yeah. Dave Paul from D&D will answer the phone to you. You can. It's really cool vibe. And when we go to Reef meets, all these guys turn up as well. And also, I'll expand the community into our international friends and stuff as well. So I now regularly speak to people in America, Canada, Australia, people that I've never met, but I feel closer to than some people I went to school with. It's bizarre how that happens. And then, of course, like things like we've got a spontaneous little reef meet going on Sunday at AAC. Someone's put in the comments about the Essex communities alive and strong. It really is, you know, and part of it for me is that community buzz. Like, it's if you think about it, what we do in our own little living room, our own little tank, is a very private hobby. It's only in the last 10 years or so with the internet, it's opened up to this cyberspace, right? It was always and we relied heavily on club meets and stuff, which happened once every 2 or 3 months. And I think the people back then.
A lot of it was on forums where you used to get trolled for asking the simplest of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I'm totally on board with everyone's comments in that. It is one of the best things about the hobby is the people in it.
I'll give one that I was actually really stoked to hear, and this is like kind of goes into like the technology and the reach that we have with social media and all this other shit that's out there, or even just being able to come on YouTube and do this. Is we were on a sale last night, And we had a gentleman that was starting to shop with us. And, you know, I asked him a question, hey, you know, what's going on? You know, how long have you had your tank? And he said, I'm getting a tank to set up this Saturday. So, I put him on pause, you know, hey, don't buy anything. But I asked him, you know, how'd you find, like, well, how'd you come across this? How'd you get into reefing? Oh, well, I was just scrolling through and I just happened to land on your page and I got interested in reefing and I bought a tank. Wow. I'm looking like that was just, it was the most absolutely random. And dude's just scrolling through on TikTok and he comes to our hobby and he's so influenced by it that he's like, I want to do that. The access and that right there is the community of being able to get out there and, like, you know, reach out to all these people that have nothing to do with our community, a lot. And we're putting them into this space that they can find all this information and they can connect with other people. Like, you know, how many people, like, you know, you say is if you're in the UK and you're in a little town that nobody else is, you know, doing reefing out there, how do you reach out and have community with people? Well, you come on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this in the green room beforehand, but Abs has just put it up about the loss of a shop in the UK, Coral Passion, just a freak disaster of a fire and explosion, just tore the shop apart. And the Facebook page was just lit up. Not just with reefers, but with people from the local.
Probably not the right term to use, Jamie. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's didn't mean that. The Facebook community page was. I can't even. I was going to say exploded. I shouldn't say that either. It was a real outpouring of generosity, not just from reefers, but from the local community. And the poor guy whose like shop it was, he got a problem. He even had to sort of say to people, can you please stop messaging me for helping and taking fish and corals? I physically can't get in the store. It was like so much overwhelming and outpouring of like people wanting to go and help and you know, don't want nothing out of it, just want to see this guy get back on his feet and a good shop come back to life. But unfortunately, I don't think that is not to be. So it just things like that, like hopefully he bounces back and there's, who knows, crowdfunding and stuff will probably play a part and we'll do our bit what we can for him. And it's things like that where, like, you know, if other businesses sort of had that happen to them in, I don't know, on a high street or something, you wouldn't really get that vibe of everyone. But in this hobby,
you hear stories of people losing everything in a tank as well, don't you? I know this is obviously a much smaller scale, sort of, you know, people, and then people will do a whip round and people give frags, or, you know, once the tank's ready, and hopefully that person will get back on, you know, back on their feet, back on the saddle, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that sense of sort of, you know, giving, no pun intended, rather than just receiving all the time is definitely up there.
I get it though. Like, you know, especially with this hobby is, you know, when you hit such a wall, like, you know, losing your whole store. I mean, how you think about how you feel when you lose a tank or you lose just one or two things in your tank. And sometimes you're like, I want to quit this. I'm done. Like, how do you know, as a person, you got to go through that and say, how do I rebuild my whole life? You know, how do I rebuild my store?
Every morning, Terrell, when I get up and let the dog out, I literally do a little bit of it's almost like a squat to look if the Teco chiller is lit up. Because if the Teco chiller is lit up, that means there's power in the garage. And I do that every morning without fail. So anybody watching me just must think, what on earth is this guy doing? Like, just literally do a little squat, curtsy, look at the corner of my eye. I'm looking for the red LED on the front of the Teco chiller that's outside with a cover on it. Is it on? Yeah, we're good. I don't have to look at it. Then I can relax. But that's just the stress. That's the overthinking that we have. You know.
But you're spot checking. You know, that's habit. I mean, dude, I gotta say, like, how many times I've saved my own ass and my own animals because I just happened to do that little thing. And it's like you know, it might be months, you know, days go by, weeks go by, months go by, and you look every day. But what happens that one day where you're like, meh, you make that assumption it's going to be on, and, you know, you save your animals by taking that look. You know, shit. What was it last Friday? It was right before I got on. My Kalkwasser doser was starting. It was clogged. And I think my dosing head was kind of started to go bad, but literally 5 minutes before I jump on the pre-live, I'm over there trying to do repairs, but it's just because I happen to see my parameters drop down a little bit, and I'm getting in there and fixing it up. But I'm almost over obsessive about it, that I'm always looking at my programming, looking at my parameters. If something changes, it just gives me the little bit to like, something's off. Well, let me just go peek really quick.
The other thing I will say though, on the back of the community is in most cases, people that you're involved in want you to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to sort of frags or secondhand equipment as well, I know so many people have just gifted people secondhand equipment, no money involved, or maybe swap for corals, but literally because they wanting somebody to to succeed, which I think is a great accolade. I really do. I think it's a great part of the hobby.
Yeah,
definitely.
We do that not just for the people, it's livestock as well, isn't it? I get a bit of a compassion in me about fish. So if I've got a spare skimmer hanging around, and I know someone's got a tank and they're under skimming and they're struggling with water quality, I'd more than be happy to give them that skimmer for the fish's benefit before his. You know what I mean? It's like, let me help you out here. I've got something that will be good for you, and do that. I think I'm going to put Dong's up here because it comes on quite nicely. One of Dong's suggestions was access to helpful reefing advice. I think what you mean by that is, I can never buy a coral from Dong or you, Terrell, just because of international shipping law and all that bollocks. Mm-hmm. However, you guys have still given me advice freely in the past, and I'm never going to be a customer. And it goes both ways. People in the US might ask UK people, and that free movement of advice is it's for everyone's benefit. It's like altruism to a T.
Yes.
So is that where you was going with that one, Dong? It's just everyone's free and giving you good advice.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing about the online community, and basically information on your fingertip. But you need to figure out if a piece of advice is coming from a reliable source. That's a very important thing to find out. But otherwise, because reefing is an art, there are multiple ways to achieve the same goal. So that is why the many reefing advice, even though this sounds quite different from different people, as long as those people are successful, and you can take their advice, then maybe one will work, the other will also work. Many times it's just pretty. That's why that go back to the original topic that Jamie was talking about. We are at a very good time of reefing because the amount of information, technology, everything that keeping this hobby. This was not there 20 years ago.
Right.
Back then, I remember that there is a survey done online. Back then, there's something called a CompuServe. Anybody remember that?
No.
Oh yeah. Damn, I'm so old. So at that time, helpful advice, so-called helpful advice, is that on the bulletin board, people are asking, how do you keep your anemone? Are you successful to keep your anemone past 6 months?
Right.
What's the standard? If you keep your anemone, they live more than 6 months, you're very successful, and people are give each other advice. But you post a message on the message board saying, what am I going to feed my anemone? Then you wait 6 weeks. Then some guy will say, how about you try some silver side? But even the silver side will kill your anemone anyway. So, but these days, you have so many advice that you can readily at your fingertip. As long as you get the advice from people that actually demonstrated they're successful. That's why the one thing is important is that before you take somebody's advice, you need to ask, show me your tank. Show me your tank. That's very important. But there's so many people with very successful tank, maintained by various different ways, that are willing to share their opinion and their suggestions. So it's not like, I like this hobby is that people are really willing to share their successful stories or the method they're doing the successful. So some other hobby may not be that case, and some other hobby will is not that openly shared. That, oh, this is my secret. Oh, I'm gonna feed this fish with this particular thing. I'm not gonna tell you. Well, but not in this hobby. People are so willing to share. I think this is also demonstrated the mentality of this hobby, the hobbyist.
That's more for the
really,
hobbyist than it is for the retailer, though. Maybe I think so, obviously retailers, that they want to, if they've got a secret ingredient or secret method, they're probably going to sit on it because they don't want to give that competition or that edge to their competitors. So I think there is a little bit of a acknowledgement to that, and I can understand why, because
So are
people
we
are
talking?
using I'm saying I'm not necessarily aiming this at you, Tez. But
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying
I was
like-
asking like in the difference of, but like, are you talking like more like how to grow coral or how to run business? Because I feel like when it comes to the sake of growing coral, no information should be gatekept. Because we're all going to benefit from it, business or hobbyist. Now, if you're talking about how to scale something as a business or sell or whatever, now that's something totally else. But I've always told people, like, why would, people have asked, oh, why don't you charge for, knowledge and I'm like, why would I? Like, if it comes to the fact of coral, I just want you to be, keep coral.
Yeah.
Now, if you're asking me how to run a business, I can do business consulting. Because I paid for hard lessons learned to be able to navigate what it is to be successful, but to grow coral,
I'm really going to throw it in here, since we're having this conversation about advice. I do question sometimes the advice given by certain retailers to people in the hobbyists. I'd question whether or not that advice is sound. I'm really going to mince my words here, but I sometimes cringe because I have heard things being advised in shops and I'm just like, that is not the right thing to say. And then I almost feel like, should I say something? Should I not say something? Do I have a responsibility? Then, like, who am I to say that what you're saying is wrong? Because I don't know. I just think, I'm getting a little bit political here, but I just think sometimes there is, I have experienced the wrong advice being given, and I'm not sitting here tonight saying I'm any expert by any means, but
that's very true, Tom. What you say is very true. But the good side, the sunny side, is that there's so many advice and plenty of advice from hobbyists as well as coral farmer. Because coral farmers want to share their success stories, so you can be more successful to growing coral, and then you come back and buy more.
Exactly.
If your coral are not doing well, you're going to get out of the hobby.
That's the short-term mindset, though, because I also think, and again, this is probably me being a little bit pessimist, whatever you want to call it, glass half empty. I almost think that sometimes retailers want you to fail, because then you're going to come back and buy another one. But you're only going to do that for so long until you get to a point and go,
and then people
I'm just going to stop altogether because I'm going to play golf or start something else,
Well, also, Tom, I think there might be a difference between the US and the UK here. So in the UK, and I'm going to defend retailers a little bit. In the UK, a lot of our LFSs are in garden centres, and they'll have a pond section, they'll have a goldfish section, they'll have a tropical section, and they'll have a little marine section tucked in the corner. And that guy you're asking to bag up your angelfish or your Nassau tang or whatever you're buying, he might really, really know his shit about aquatic planted tanks, but he's also got to sell you marine stuff.
No, I get that. I completely agree. I'll get that.
Yeah.
But you're looking at intention of that business. What is their underlying, like, okay, let's say I see where you're going with that, Tom, because I've seen the same thing. I can see where they're okay, like, and I think that's an ethical thing of how somebody either runs their business or presents themselves. Are you going to forego the dollar right now to be able to help the reefer out to get stay in the hobby longer, or do you have some people just want to get that dollar?
Well, you said earlier that you had somebody message you on your live sales wanting to buy corals, and he just bought a tank, and you said no. You could quite easily said yes, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I see plenty of people do the opposite and just make the payment. And
I remember the day when my LFS wouldn't sell you an SPS coral until you took a water sample in.
Fair,
good. That's what you used to do.
That's good.
Take a water sample in. They used to test your water, and you could buy one.
Yeah, I think that's a very good practice, and also I think they're very smart to do that.
But you believe what they were saying. You bought into their advice because you were like, well, you could just sell me that and I could just go home and it could die or whatever. But they wanted you to succeed. So you almost felt like they were part of your reefing journey almost. They were like partnered with you in having success with it. So it was really important.
Because they're selling livestock. So for the store, they're selling animals or plants. They definitely want you to be successful. Yeah. Otherwise, that you're gonna lose the customer forever.
Yeah. And Tom, you made a good point. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, Tom, you made a good point when you're and just because it's on my mind, you're like, okay, so let's say you're at a store, you hear LFS give this random customer bad advice. You don't necessarily have to challenge them and be like, that's wrong advice, but you can kind of interject and hey, and you can ask questions. You know what you're doing, but hey, how long have you had your tank up, and are you sure that's right? And you can check people, and I think that becomes with like there's a fine line of making an ego where you can you get into an argument with somebody, but you can also kind of check people here and there and stimulate a good a good conversation to come out of it that can lead and there's plenty of times we've done this on the live where we've said it and we're like, no, you're right. Maybe it gets you to think about it in a different way for a second. So I feel like we kind of do have a responsibility to, if we see that complete negligence, to check it, but not do it in a rude way. Cause I don't want to, go into a LFS. And if I see him doing shit, I don't want to dog him because then I look like I look kind of like an asshole for it. But, at least I can have my own opinion and be like, yo, that dude is wrong, and I can give my own recommendations, but I might be able to have a conversation and say, hey man, that just sounds odd. Can you elaborate on that? And then all of a sudden they're giving their opinion, and maybe you have more knowledge than that, and now all of a sudden you're finding yourself in this conversation, and they,
I just think most people shop with their eyes, don't they? They see a coral, they see a fish, and they go, I want that. They shop with their eyes, they go, I can afford it. It's more a case of, do I like it? Can I afford it? I'm buying it. The question of, can I keep it? Will it fit in with everything else? What do I know about it? And I'm sat here saying this for experience because I've done exactly this. I've literally gone and blinkered. I've gone, I want to buy that, and I just think sometimes you need that person around you that you can lean on to have that, give that advice, and I don't always think it's there. Is all I'm saying. It's there socially on like YouTube or on Instagram, WhatsApp groups maybe. But sometimes, and I'm not going to name names, James, but there are a few instances where I've been into shops and I've just stood there, and I'm just gone. And I've just had to walk away because I just feel like saying, are you more interested about flipping that because you've got to pay the electric bill for the shop, or are you actually more bothered about this person having success? That's the
point I was going to make. So I think 5 years ago it was a lot easier for these stores to turn away business on those grounds. Nowadays, with shops on their arse, shops closing left, right, and centre, no one's buying any luxury items anymore. And you get someone come in the shop, rightly or wrongly, wants to spend $2 or $3 grand on livestock, and your shop's worried about paying the staff that week. It becomes very tricky, and rightly or wrongly, I think that does play into it. The economy at the minute in the UK, especially.
Definitely, I accept that. I do. But what I'd rather see, what I'd much rather see, and this when it comes down to a conscious point of view as a human being, bearing in mind we're talking about animals, whether it's cats, dogs, fish, corals, whatever. If you don't know, just say you don't know. And go and find out. Go and ask somebody that does know, or make a phone call, or go on the internet and Google it. Don't pretend you know because you think you should know because you work in a shop and you've got a name badge. Not being horrible. I've worked in retail, so I'm not saying anything wrong with that when I say this. But what I am saying is you should have the conscience to say, I'm not sure about that. It's like fish. I haven't got really much knowledge about fish because I'm more into corals. So if somebody asked me about fish, I'd say, don't ask me, I'm the wrong person. And that's what I'd honestly say. I'm not going to go, oh, yeah, I know, because I sit on here with Dong and Terrell and Jamie on a Friday night. I wouldn't know. Yeah. But I think that just boils down to the kind of person you are. And I just think sometimes, in a shop as well, there's no harm in just saying, not sure about that. Don't know.
Well, not only that works both ways. If I'm in a store and I'm asking the guy questions about an SPS coral, and he turns around and says, actually, I don't know, but I'll get someone who does. And then I ask him about fish and he tells me loads of detail. I'm going to believe everything he tells me because he's confidently telling me something about fish without hesitating.
Yeah.
honesty works both ways. I'd do it all the time at work. You know, you can. In my line of work, you've just got to know a lot about. You've got to know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yes.
And just to get you by. And when it gets specialist, you call in specialists. And I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Say, I know up to a point, but saying I don't know is the best thing you can do, like we say there. And then,
well, going back to what we are saying tonight, there's that much information out there that people can access the information before going and making that purchase to probably give them a little bit of inside knowledge before they go to that LFS to buy that fish or coral, having already watched the video or talk to several people about, you know, if it's the right thing for their tank. Just like most people, I would expect 9 times out of 10 people, if they were going to buy a copper band, would say, I want to see it before we would even consider buying it. You know, that sort of psychological sort of you know, understanding of certain things, I think, is important before you go and buy something, is all I'm saying. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, positive conversation. No, that's good. This is good.
No, it's good.
And
It's good, man.
For example, that for advanced hobbyists, for example, people who ask for buying SPS coral, that means that the hobbyist is looking for more advanced advice. Probably people shouldn't expect to get those advice from a local fish store. First of all, local fish store is not a highly profitable business. That lead to they cannot afford to hire somebody with advanced knowledge to back your fish and coral.
I get that.
Yeah. So do your own research and ask the community if you're asking more advanced questions. Yeah. So if you have a question, say, oh, does the Nemo go into saltwater or freshwater? Well, yeah, that local fish store more than sufficient to answer that. Yeah. But if you say, how do I take care of this Acropora speciosa? Oh my God, that. Yeah. Ask the question.
Obviously, if you're lucky enough
the
to have
correct places.
A specialist.
Go on, Jay.
Sorry, go ahead.
If you're lucky enough to have a specialist like an AAC or a Finest or an iReef or other high-end sort of dedicated marine stores, then you know that's the exception to the rule. But yeah, for the garden centre shops, you can't expect too much.
No.
But as you say, the whole benefit is you can come on streams like this. You can go on reefing groups and meet anyone you need to, and speak to the likes of Terrell and Dong, and they'll answer your questions, or speak to any of the, you know, Sanjay, Joshi, Adam Sandler will answer questions on their Facebook groups. And, you know what I mean? It's
Claude's saying it'll stay difficult as long as it's not a full-time profession. Yeah, I get that. I accept that. I accept that.
Yeah.
I accept that. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of it, you know, like I see the difference like around here. I'm thinking of like LFSs in this area, you know, and I think of like the one LFS, I'm good friends with him over there. He's had a store open for shit, man, close to 30 years now. And he's told me, I think in 25 years, he's seen over 48 businesses open and close in the area. And I'm looking and I'm like, how do you get through it, man? Like, how do you survive all that? How do you outlast? And he was saying, he's like, you know, when I first started here, he's like, the community was not that good. And it's over the years, he's built much nicer community. People are much kinder with each other. They're much more into it. But you can see it's just how he runs his store compared to the next person. And you can tell the difference in somebody that really, really loves it and somebody that's either might be a little bit burnt out on it or somebody that just doesn't have any of that passion in it, man. But you know, just to that extent, I can see a major difference in how they guide their community, how they sell stuff, what they bring in, and so it dictates a lot. But I think it comes down to the personal person, you know, who wants to take that extra step to take care of their store, their customer, their animals, everything else. And some people ain't cut out for it like that.
Yeah, but if you want to make a lot of money, don't get into the local fish store business.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but I think Don was right about, you know, you've got people that can bag stuff up, package it, put it through the till, catch it, net it, whatever. But when it comes to the knowledge side of it, you've got to have that source of information on site available while ever that shop is, you know, open. I know quite a few shops, as I said earlier about myself, you know, in terms of knowledge of fish compared to corals, and there's people that the other way around. And I'd just like to see that there was a fish guy or woman or girl, not to be sexist, or a coral person, or just somebody that people have got that, I suppose, that reassurance that they're making the right purchase.
Yeah, and that
is
generally there's a correlation between you generally, at the risk of sounding very, very snobby, if you go to those garden centres,
you are snobby, James.
Little finger in the air. The risk of sounding snobby. If you go to those garden centre stores that sell everything, marine, tropical, cold water, pond, they generally only really sell the basics: clownfish, damsels, green star polyp, Kenya tree. If I want to buy a captive bred goldflake angel, I'm not going to go to that sort of shop, and I'm not going to be spending that sort of money. I'm not going to get that sort of advice. Generally, it correlates with what the shop's selling to what the advice you get, and the stuff they sell, they can't get too wrong. Cheap softies that grow under, a daylight bulb or something, they can't get that stuff too wrong. And a lot of people start out there, and then, again, not sounding disrespectful, they reach the limit of those stores, and when their hobby progresses to the next level, they'll stop shopping there because they'll go on to the store that caters for them.
But I also think there's a little bit of trophy collecting, not just with corals, but also with fish. There are people that will see a fish, and because of the price tag, will think that that's an achievement to own that fish, to have it in their tank, irrelevant of whether or not it's the right fish to have. Bearing in mind, they probably have very little experience or understanding of that fish. Does that make any sense? What I'm just trying to explain.
Yeah, trophy collect.
Yeah. And that's where I think there needs to be. It's unfortunate. This is just how it is. But I think sometimes people should be able to question and say, as I said earlier about my old LFS from years and years ago with the water test before you got corals. I think sometimes that it would be nice for people to sort of say, how big's your tank? What else have you got in your tank? Because the other thing is, like, how many times people think that, well, it's all right, I could put another fish in. I've only got 20, or I've only got 22 fish already. I can put another 2 in. No, but you understand what I'm saying, don't you? That happens. I've had these conversations.
I take a degree. Oh, sorry. You go.
No, sorry, Tom. No, go on.
I was gonna say I take a degree of responsibility. Like, I mean, hey, if somebody comes to shop with me and then all of a sudden, within a few days or a week, they're like, "This is all dead," and I'm, I feel responsible that I'm like, well, when I start asking them questions and then I come to find out like they weren't prepared, and I say, okay, yes, it is up to the consumer. That is there on them, but if I take the responsibility of selling this to them, I still have to be that knowledge base. I have to help them through this process, or else I just turn into that dude that's just doing it for money. And I don't want the animals just to go somewhere and die. That's ultimately it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna throw,
especially raise those animals from frags.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna throw another one on here to again not end on a high because it's been a high all night, but another thing I came up with, and I was thinking since last week when we said we're going to do the good stuff in reefing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I came up with, I'm going to sound so soppy here, but the sheer variety and amazing beauty.
Oh, yeah.
Everything out there.
Dude.
I mean, nice. we're talking animals here with natural things harvested from a reef out in the real world, in the wild, right? They're not designer animals, but you see the colours on these things. Like a regal angel. Is there a more beautiful fish than a regal angel? I mean, Christ, nature designed that. And sometimes you sort of sit back and you just sort of look at the fish and think, like, wow, like there's nothing that compares to having that in your living room. And it swims in front of a contrasting coral, and the colours are just, I mean, it's amazing. Like, the best thing about this hobby is, I think David Saxby said it best. It's just the sheer beauty.
I say it all the time. I'll tell Lindsay, I'll be walking through here and she'll tell you, I'll stop and I'll kind of like look around and I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is nuts. It just kind of, I'm so immersed in it all the time. But then I really do think I'm like you said, it's just the sheer intricacy and beauty and the way everything works so perfectly. And then we have it in this little glass box in a house, how far away from the freaking ocean where it's supposed to be. And we're keeping this. And it's mind boggling. But
please tell me you tell Lindsay how amazingly beautiful she is as well. Just as
I do. Just she always rolls her eyes at me though. she rolls her eyes a whole lot.
For me, this is going to sound really philosophical, and it's not the beers talking, but for me, like, I'm not a religious man. I don't do church and God and all that sort of stuff. I'm baptized, but I don't partake in that. For me,
You meant circumcised. Sorry for everybody.
I might be a Tottenham fan, Tom. I might be a Tottenham fan, but like I'd say nature is my church, if that's the way to put it.
Spit it out.
No, that's it. I say nature is my church, and not just the colours of fish, but like things like a shrimp goby pair. Like, how did that come to be?
Yeah.
And I could spend hours watching that shrimp doing what they do and going through the motions, and I'll spend hours boring people about it when they come round and they want to look at the fish. And I'm saying, no, come look at this little shrimp in the corner, look, and his goby. And it's just, honestly, there's so much variety here, so much choice you have, so much cryptic animals that I think they're probably my favourite parts of the reef, is the stuff you don't see every day. You know, when a certain crab comes out once in every 3 months, and the interest is just never ending. But yeah, overall, I mean, all right, I get it. My reef tank is not a natural looking scape. It's got bits from all over the world and stuff in it. But
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just this comment. I really need to take my head out of the gutter because that just reads something completely different to me. But oh, I'm sorry, Robust Quinn. Very funny. I know you didn't mean that. Just my mind. It's Friday night. I've had a drink. Very good. But no, we all like looking at things with orange glasses on for sure.
No, you're right. It's so intricate though, man. And it's like you know, I'm with you, man. It's like you do have to think a little bit deeper into it. And it keeps that wonder about everything. It's, you know, we try to find answers to everything nowadays. We have all the technology, we have all this and all that. And it's like this stuff still keeps me like going, whoa, it can do that. And then, you know, I can know it, but to see it is much different. And then that's like you get to play, you know, creator with this little box of things.
I like watching some of the David Attenborough stuff that we get, obviously, you know, Wildland, Deep Planet and etc. Because we get so mesmerized by the social media and other people's fish tanks. When you look at, there was a comment there about God is King, you know, Mother Nature for me. It's like, you know, we can all have our own variations of how to keep these animals happy, thriving, whatever. But when you look at the real tank of the world, i.e. the ocean, you can see, we you know, yeah, different levels.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think, you know, it blows your mind. You think of the macro out in the ocean and how the reef creates the, you know, the environment for everything else. And then you look at the absolute micro of how the, you know, the symbiotic relationship with your zooxanthellae with your coral itself, and then everything that happens in between and everything supporting it. It's just like, it's just absolutely freaking mind blowing. And like, you know, when I saw my Ghani spawning, you know, in my brain, it clicked to like a nebula, you know, just what is this little thing going on? And it represents something in a macro, something else so much larger. And then, you know, where are we in this universe with it?
You know, when you were a veteran, Terrell, did you ever think that you would be talking about zooxanthellae and
hell no,
your Ghani spawning? Your roommate?
Never in a million years would have thought I'd end up in this hobby. Like my father had a, you know, when I was in high school, he got a little saltwater bow front and with a cowfish in there. And I was obsessed with the cowfish because it was like the most personality little fish.
Yeah.
But you know, that was my only ever experience other than when I got out, my buddy had one and then I got obsessed with it. And, you know, it was all kind of downhill from there.
Because you are like the reef, you are like the
uphill.
reefing, like the reefing Luigi. That exists in this hobby, definitely.
It's the mustache.
It's the mustache. Definitely. Okay, fair enough. No, I think you're right, Jamie. The beauty, you're right. The beauty is unreal. I think, especially when. What about when you haven't seen your tank for a while and you maybe been on holiday and come back to it and notice? I mean, Dong doesn't go anywhere. He just lives down there.
I'm just staying here.
Yeah. He's allowed upstairs to look at the pot roast, and then he's back down again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. When you come back off holiday, it's like unwrapping a present, right? You scrape off that big green film, and then what's behind it is just spectacular.
Mm-hmm. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, and I'm not even a blues fan. Like I have quite a white spectrum, and those colours bedazzle me. Like when it goes blue for the final evening of the night, yeah, it looks beautiful and neon and stuff, but it looks too artificial for my eyes. It doesn't. I like the natural look of stuff. Like it doesn't have to be fluorescent to the highest degree to be beautiful to me. I like it how it looks throughout the day. And I say for me, it's more. I'm more of a fish guy anyway. The fish are what do it for me. The colours on a fish, like just even like you were saying earlier, Terrell, about your macro photography. Things like a cheap blue chromis, green chromis looks amazing under macro. You see something that just you glaze over every day. When you stop and look at it, spectacular. And I came in mainly from the freshwater world. I kept a reef tank 20 years ago, but it was a converted tropical tank, and it was softies, and it was horrible, and it was minging and rubbish. But I've come really from the freshwater side of things, and always sort of thought that freshwater was enough for me. And there are some beautiful freshwater fish and absolutely stunning nano rainbow fish and all that sort of stuff. Love fish. But until you see a regal angel, I say it again, or even a yellow tang or gold flake angels, things, and as soon as you see something like that, there's nothing in this world compares to the vibrancy and the color that you get off of a fish. And it's not a man-made thing either. That's what gets me. It's not a man-made thing.
I always see fish at like different points in times, and I always catch details on them that I would never catch before, or I don't ever pay attention to. Like, you know, you ever notice on like some tangs, they have like little, like it's almost like a shimmer of ripple across their body, you know, where you just kind of catch. Yep. And you always just catch it at that right angle. But it's always just so interesting because you see a scopus, you don't think nothing of it, but then like you kind of catch it in that, and you're like, yo, that's a really nice fish, but you know, you don't appreciate it all the time. But
I would take a scopaz tang over a black tang. Both beautiful fish, but to me, a scopaz is stunning compared to a black tang. And again, people buy the black tang because it's got the 2-3 grand price tag and it's a status symbol.
Now, somebody did mention something interesting about that, and again, I don't know how true it is, but I was told that you get your scopus and your black tangs will meet in the Christmas Islands. And then what they'll do is they'll breed over there, and then you end up getting some hybrids, and you don't know that they're hybrids until they get a little bit older. So they'll collect them as scopus, but then you get your hybrid blacks.
The one that Paul,
I have one right there.
The one that Paul's got is 26 years old now, I think it is, and we believe that's a hybrid. It's not a pure black tang. So that could exactly be that.
We got one in that tank right now, and you could tell he's like, you know, he looks just, it's the scopus just have that little sheen of like gray as they come to the front, but no, he's not like your true Hawaiian black, but he's just it's a totally different shade of black on him, and it's just it's uniform all the way.
The body shape also different. The body shape is more taller.
Yes,
and then with a longer snout. Coming out.
Well, that's another sort of segue topic. Is a lot of people say like hybrid fish. There's quite a few like hybrid lemon peel angels and hybrid things coming onto the market and stuff that I don't feel the fish we've got access to in a natural state need anything doing to them. Like there's a massive craze for like, again, I'll say regal angels is my favorite fish.
Like implants.
A massive craze for like misbarred regal angels and all like wavy lines and stuff. I'm like, I think the original is better. Like,
it's a collector thing. It's always part of this hobby, and I think everybody's always going to find value in different things, and people will put shit together just for the sake of putting it together or doing it, and somebody will find value in it. Like, you know, it's like crazy. You could take a single piece of coral, and then nobody wants it, and then you could put that piece of coral next to another little bit slightly different color of coral, and now people are like, oh, and they'll grab it. It's just, you know, there's different ways. People just want weird things. Same thing with fish is they like their fish, they like the basic fish, but some people just want the odd collectors that you don't see.
I'll give you a great example of that, Terrell. Like about in the 90s when I had my first tank, the fashion, the trend, whatever it was to have a blue background. People still do, but I had a bright blue background on my tank, and it was. I made the mistake of buying things like pulse coral, and I had this pulse coral would spread everywhere to the point of where I was really hacked off, and I was razoring it off the back all the time. And one morning, well, as I was sort of maintaining the tank, I cut off a load of this pulse coral, threw it in the bucket on the floor with the water change I was doing, and it was a black bucket. And I looked down and I saw this pulse coral against the black background, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's a totally different coral." That's amazing. Whacked off the back because it was back then. It wasn't a painted tank. It was just that, you know, the old cellophane sort of blue.
Yeah.
whipped it off, turned it around, put a black backing on it, and I let the pulse coral just grow crazy. And it was like I had a whole new tank. And that simple coral that I was just literally cutting off and getting rid of, all of a sudden I was like, appreciate it for what it was. It was like I was just never showing it right. It's actually a stunning coral, right?
That's
One man's
cool.
rubbish. And all that.
Yeah, that's why aquascaping is so important. You put the contrasting coral, the color wheel.
Yeah, color wheel.
Contrasting color. That will make the tank make each coral pops a lot more.
Yeah.
There's like a whole nother art, but you know, when you get into like the that, you know, your aquascaping and everything, you know, because I was like, you know, studying up on that back, you know, when I was first doing it, and you know, came across like the rule of thirds in photography, and then applying you know, that to this and the certain shapes, like having that, you know, that circular kind of shape, and then applying that to this as well. And yeah, and you could tell, like, you know, when you hit those little points, the mind, like your brain just processes it so much just smoother, where it's not like jagged thrown in pieces.
So just to throw a last sort of question or thought point out there, then do you think the human brain has made a reef tank more beautiful than nature would create one?
Different kind.
I think the reef tank. Well, it depends who's looking at it. I said for human, probably that we look at a reef tank, it looks a lot more colorful because that's how we perceive the color. But yellow tank, looking at yourself, what a piece of shit. I prefer the ocean.
Yeah, but it's a DIY, isn't it? We are able to put things where we want them. We can scape it how we want to. We can have whatever color backing we want on it, you know, etc. So we can play with nature to an extent. But yeah, it's certainly never going to be a slice of the ocean, as people call it, because it looks nothing like the real ocean.
Yeah, it's nothing like it.
You've got corals from different continents, different environments, all meant to live in harmony.
Yeah.
You know, mixed reef.
At least it's like an entry into being interested in it. And then, you know, like, to me, I think about, like, you know, I've grown up around the beaches. You know, we have a reef around here that got super damaged, and we lost it, you know, as a kid. And, you know, and I'm thinking about, like, this is my introduction back into it, and all it's done is just reignite that desire to be like, you know, I love this. I absolutely love this, but I want to go swim in, you know, Okinawa. You know, I want to go out to Indonesia, and I want to see the actual reefs. You know, show me the place they are in the world, and now I can appreciate this. But I'm still lost in the wondrous size of that out there.
There's always the element though, if you don't appreciate what you've got. I'm sure if we came to visit you, Tara, and you took us to your local beach, me and Tom would be in that sea 20 hours of the 24-hour day, because we'd find it amazing. But because you see it every day, every time you go there, you probably lust for something different. It's like when I get my friends come and stay with me, take me to all the tourist spots in London. I'm like, I just don't want to go. Don't want to go.
But that's the same. But you could actually say that about looking at other people's tanks, though, because I've seen other people who have had going back to Dong's point on the color wheel, have had corals in different places or different combinations that I haven't had, and they've been so much. I've seen such an impact or vibrance from people having certain corals. And the other thing as well is that less is more. This comes from a guy downstairs who's tried to put every SPS coral known to man in a 9.5 foot tank. But I've seen all sorts of tanks that have had bigger colonies, the right contrast of colour, and they've had so much more impact than a tank that's just, you know, littered with frags. Right. So I think going to the point there about beauty and variety, there's a lot of variety, but I think, you know, if you do your research, which we've talked about a little bit tonight, and you look at, you know, what other people have achieved, and you look at what you want to achieve, and I think just sort of stick to your goals on that front when it comes to things like that, and don't get, you know, sort of, you know, literally, I don't know, walk into an LFS, I've got to get that, and before you know it, you've got all these corals, and where do I put them? You know, and it's like you're making spaces for corals that don't really want to go there, and, you know, he's got that fish, I want that fish. I think sometimes the best tanks I've seen in my time have been the simple ones. You know, they've got a few fish, nice colours. They do probably a little bit of utilitarian. You know, they keep on top of certain things like algae or whatever else, maybe a wrasse or two. and the corals, you know, you've got branching, you've got table, and yeah, I think for me, less is more on that one. That's been the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
We've gone kind of full circle. There's an account I follow on Instagram, and the guy's got like 40 or 60,000 followers, and all he's got is a nanocube, and it's just GSP over the whole thing, and it's just every single stream and reel is just this tank full of GSP, and I think a couple of sexy shrimp and a clownfish is literally the most simple tank you can make. I'm not saying followers equal quality, nothing. I don't go into all that sort of stuff, but there's obviously something in it because so many people are mesmerized by this particular tank, and it's just got one species of coral in it and very few livestock pieces.
Actually, that's kind of interesting because the people that for new hobbyists coming in, they're always being fascinated by the GSP and Posenxenia.
Yeah,
they move, and I firmly believe that human and coral probably has some subconscious connection.
I mean, I would rather talk to coral than people. Definitely, if I had a choice. They make far more sense.
I prefer
Tom's over there. Grow.
What was that? What was that? Wow!
And you're right. I prefer talking to people that are moving as well, so that helps. Yeah.
Anyway,
right. We've somehow amazingly timed that to perfection with the amount of stuff we was going through. Bang on the 2-hour mark. I think it's another one where we've gone a bit off piste, and we could talk about good stuff all day long. It's I don't know. I do still think in the back of my head it's easier to talk about all the bad stuff than it was to talk about the good stuff.
I just think that the longer you're in the hobby, as I've said a few times today, you just end up almost programming yourself unknowingly to just focus on what could go wrong all the time. You're on like a knife edge. What could go wrong, rather than, you know, sitting back and going, look at what I'm doing right. And that's going back to a couple of things I've said about the photographs and talking to other people that see your tank or haven't seen your tank for a while, and have some confidence, you know, have some belief. And if you're doing the research and the knowledge and you're testing and, you know, you keep on top of it, just, yeah. Who's this?
Crumb. This is Mr. Crumb.
Hello, Mr. Crumb.
Crumb. Yep. Say, Crumb, do you want a greenie?
Do you know what? A greenie.
He's like, yeah, I really want a greenie. Okay, I'll give you a greenie afterwards. he's like,
no, what he's saying, Mr. Crumb, is you'll smoke a greenie afterwards. That's what he's really saying.
No, Tom, I'll make you. Sorry for cutting you off because Mr. Greenie appeared, but just Mr. Crumb appeared. Sorry. No, you're right though. We focus on all the time. We take for granted what we've actually got. So it's been quite refreshing tonight to think about the things that we think are good and remind ourselves every now and then just why we're doing this and what we enjoy about it. And it's a bit of a reset, right? It's a bit of a nice reset. That.
So and what you enjoy, somebody might not. You know, different tastes, different. You know, different.
Yeah.
Different plans with the tank, different aspirations. You know, somebody might want to have an SPS dominant tank. Somebody might just want a tank that can feed the fish and clean the skimmer cup and go to work and not stress about it. So if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. That's all I will say. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. If you don't,
you get different spots on your journey too, man. You know, you think about like, you know, the people that come in that have no idea about reefing and they love all the wavy stuff. And then, you know, you think about your progression of, you know, then you don't even look at the hard corals and then you learn about it. Then you kind of start noticing little things in the hobby and it slowly opens you up. You know, that's why I kind of laugh in the most basic. We had our nieces and nephews come over and see the tanks for the first time, and they're 4, 3, and 1. And you know, the 3-year-old nephew, he was obsessed with the Astrenia starfish. And you know, I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, and the snails. And so he was running around going schnee snails, and pointing at all the snails in the tank. But I'm thinking, at that level, you know, as a kid, these little starfish in his hand were the most amazing thing. And he didn't give a shit about anything else. You know, we gave him a little water bottle and he stares at the water bottle and watches them crawl up the sides. And that's an introduction into, you know, reefing, but he comprehends it at that little level. At that point.
Don, going back to your earlier point about welfare, maybe that's what they should feed the kids.
Oh yeah, the starfish.
Just thinking.
Pretend to be the Harlequin shrimp.
Just thinking. Anyway,
Unit.
that brings us to a very nice natural end. I think we'll leave it at that tonight. Bang on time. It's been good. Been a good chat, lads, and I think we've had loads of good comments coming in. I think people have sort of taken on board that and put some really good stuff in the chat, picking up on the community vibe and getting everyone together. I will mention we have got the Reefers Network Island meet up in November the 13th that weekend.
Yes, it is.
So the WhatsApp group will be going live pretty soon for everyone that's coming along, interested, confirmed, whatever.
This weekend.
This weekend. So get your names down. Some people have already booked flights and accommodation. So
yes,
it's happening, guys. Cannot wait for that one. We've also got a bit of an impromptu meet if you're in the southeast or wherever you are. If you want to travel at AAC on Sunday. I think Dave and Matt Norfolk have set up a little meet at opening time, 10:30 on Sunday. So feel free to come and join us there or arrange your own meet at your own LFS and get together. Hope this inspires you to do so. So I think for us tonight, it's a massive thank you. We've enjoyed having you with us. Thanks to our team Exodus behind us, who are going to front some prizes for some quizzes coming up. So I hope you've all been listening to what we're talking about. Wink, wink. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next Friday. See you guys.
Have a good week.